Okay, I need a breath. All right. So I'm trying to do a different presentation each time. No, I'm trying to do a better presentation each time. So I'm Jim Simon. I'm the Deputy Director of Community Planning at ISLES. We're a community development and environmental nonprofit. We've been working in Trenton for close to 40 years. We've adapted to meet a lot of different needs in the community. So, I started off working in urban agriculture department, supporting school and community gardens, providing environmental education. But the last few years, I've been working more in the planning area. So a lot of our community planning work, we view that as a toolkit. So we're using different tools in support of community revitalization. So it could be a garden here, it could be a housing rehab project here, it could be focusing our healthy homes work on lead contamination in one area, or it could be working with the community on making sure they've got the right financial kind of management skills as well. So I'll talk a little bit about how the Trenton Arts and Focus planning process was an output of the Creative New Jersey call to collaboration about 5 years ago. I'll talk about the Arts District, and I'll talk about the implementation of the Arts District plan. So in the call to collaboration, some of the recommendations that came out of that were the fact that there needed to be more intentional collaboration throughout the city, that there actually be an arts district developed, and that arts be used as a tool for community revitalization. So kind of based on those outcomes and our relationship with other collaboratives and other organizations in the city, we were able to find funding through the National Endowment for the Arts and utilize some of our own funding from the state's Neighborhood Revitalization Tax Credit Funding Program to fund the arts planning process. So the first step for that was to basically create a series of events. Well, first it was assembling a focus group or a steering committee of about 50 people representing organizations throughout the community. We held focus groups and events. So the first event was held as part of Artworks Art All Day, which is a day designed to get people out in the studios and seeing grassroots art in the community. So there was a vacant storefront that was turned into a kind of a pop-up store, and we were able to set up shop in there to talk about the arts planning process, but then we were able to basically keep that open for the rest of the week so people who were working or visiting or passing by could provide feedback on the arts. So we did a lot of mapping exercises, so people could take a little sticker, put it on the map, and have a corresponding postcard to what they thought was needed there, or a great thing that was going on there. So we asked them to submit ideas or insights. So we're able to kind of map all that stuff and kind of collect a database of what people thought about the arts in the city of Trenton. What else? So we worked closely with the city of Trenton and also Passage Theater Company to manage the process. The city of Trenton is also working through an update to their master plan called Trenton 250. So we wanted to make sure that this was done in context of the master plan update and other planning that was going on in the area, whether it's a neighborhood plan that ISLES is working on or other economic development plans in the city. We didn't want a plan to just kind of sit on the shelf, so it was intentionally designed to have a pretty quick turnaround from the planning process to implementation. So some of the strategy sets that were results of the planning process were, one, to build awareness and support for the arts. So that includes making sure that information about public arts or artist opportunities or arts education was available, increase access to the arts, really be able to kind of promote it and tell the story, and then also support arts advocacy in the city, but then also statewide. The second set of strategies revolves around supporting local artists and creative entrepreneurs, so making sure that they have conducive places to work, but then also conducive places to live. So we're able to use some of our other funding to do some scattered site infill on abandoned properties to turn them into creative spaces for live or work. We rehabbed an old carriage house that had been vacant for a significant number of years into an artist's gallery space and studio space for a group of artists that were based out of the Trenton area soup kitchen. They're called the Trenton Community Arts Team. So now they have a functional space that's not just a room in the soup kitchen that they can work in, that they can exhibit in, and keep it open for community events. So it's kind of situated backwards on the street because it's a carriage house. So there's an open yard with artwork and a garden that faces the street. So they do public art workshops. We work with them on events like National Night Out. So it's a place for them to kind of get more exposure and actually sell art, which kind of helps fund some of their operations. So talking about implementation, now that we worked on the plan and the creative district, I'll give you some examples of how we're actually making stuff happen. So utilizing again some of that neighborhood revitalization tax credit funding, the Trenton Community Arts Team was one project. We're providing support for the Orchid House, which is a co-op nearby that hosts workshops. We're helping them renovate their commercial space and commercial kitchen so that they can be open to the public. They also host the Trenton People's Book Fair, which I think is going to be in its third year. We're also working with the I Am Trenton Community Foundation, which sponsors citywide grants. We work with them to kind of manage the process of neighborhood-based grants. So we've been doing that for a number of years on the community scale. This last year in the creative district, or the old Trenton neighborhood, we made close to $70,000 available for artists, grassroots organizations, and community members. So if you visit the Creek to Canal website, you can see a lot of the different projects on there. But a few of those are workshops. So there's a series of bicycle repair workshops called Off the Chain that were hosted at the Orchid House. We supported the Trenton People's Book Fair, again, at the Orchid House. We supported other public art projects. So Leon Rainbow is a noted local artist. So he does participatory art projects with the community. He did a 90-foot long mural on a building in downtown Trenton that kind of reflected the history of architectural history of the neighborhood. One other great project was the Trenton Art Puzzle project. So two artists basically came up with a plywood template of the outline of the city of Trenton, and they cut out the center section so they're kind of interchangeable with other pieces. And they distributed those to established artists, self-taught artists. They did public workshops with kids and senior citizens to basically let people kind of create their vision of Trenton on this board. And they collected everything at the end, and they displayed them at the Broad Street Bank Gallery, which is a vacant storefront that we're able to use some of our funding. The Trenton Downtown Association used some of their funding to basically open up a brand new gallery with shows. So the art piece puzzle show was exhibited there, so they laid out all 200 pieces on the floor that you can walk around with an amazing street artist next to a kindergarten artist who just kind of did like an impressionistic piece, and you can kind of interchange the pieces to really create kind of a hybrid piece of art. That was then again displayed at Art All Day or at a city park at a children's garden that we manage. So that was one of the great really kind of participatory projects. Also, the Creek to Canal plan, it's in the process of being adopted as part of the city's master plan right now as a neighborhood plan. But we and other organizations would like to support these art policy initiatives. There's one in committee right now that allows municipalities or the State Council on the Arts to kind of develop criteria for arts districts and municipalities. So that would kind of make the process easier. We're kind of doing an end run with the city of Trenton to have it adopted as essentially a neighborhood plan. Any questions right now about the process or the projects? Yes. Absolutely, yeah. So it's not just visual arts. So it's really any sort of creative art. So some of the small grant or the community grant projects were the Garvey School. They did they're an Afrocentric school that teaches dancing and music. So they did workshops for children in the community. There were kind of open mic night or public performance projects as well. So yeah, it's not limited to visual art.
You mentioned the schools. How engaged were the public schools in Trenton or charter schools in Trenton with this effort? Were they very involved?
So there were members on the steering committee, but anytime that we have if I put out an RFP for a public mural, I won't just send that to artists that I know. I'll send it to local high school teachers that I know. So I would rather see a participatory mural done by a local school than one artist. So it's that process is important as well. Yep.
When did your organization start? How long has this been in process?
So ISLES has been working for close to 40 years, but the Arts District, that process is relatively new. That started within the past probably like three or 4 years.
So it's actually part of an organization that's been around a long time.
Yep.
It sounds like you've done it in a short period of time.
Yep.
And you said it's part of the Trenton 15 plan. So when does that end? When is the...
They are, I guess, finalizing the different elements of the plan. So that's kind of a living document. They're in the process of kind of officially adopting and fleshing out these individual elements. So.
Your Create Now project is going to... How long do you see that taking?
We imagine that to continue. So we want to keep the steering committee active. We want to really kind of line up a lot of these implementation projects so there's some traction. One good project that's come up, I'm the chair of the Trenton Green team, and the city of Trenton was just awarded a grant from Sustainable Jersey to develop an art walk. So Artworks is the lead partner on that. So if you're visiting Trenton, if you want to go to downtown Trenton, one of the main routes that you go is through basically a series of kind of dirty, scary, unsafe, poorly lit underpasses. So the concept was to kind of reactivate that with lighting and public art to make it safer, but then also incorporate complete streets elements. There's a bike lane in that section that lasts maybe like 50 yards, so it just kind of appears out of nowhere. Traffic needs to be, calmed. The landscaping is really overgrown, so it's not inviting. So, they were able to get funding through Sustainable Jersey, but then also the Trenton Health team. The big challenge now is really making that work. The Department of Transportation is, they flat out said no, but by working with other, partner organizations, folks from the city, to kind of say, no is not really the answer that we can live with. Arts is really an important tool for community revitalization. So we were able to, get a meeting with folks from DOT, folks from Treasury, to figure out how we can kind of move this forward. So it may not be murals on the underpasses right now, but it might be sculptures or lighting on the approaches to the area, or working with DOT to really make the corridor safer. So trying to just kind of align other efforts that are already going on.
I also wonder, I've lived in the area a long time. Trenton has a very troubled political history, a lot of corruption in the city, a lot of dysfunction. And ISLES has been around for a long time. I don't know how long you've been with them, but has been coping with all of this over a long period of time.
Yep.
And I wonder if you see changes there. Do you feel optimistic about the city beginning to make decisions more on behalf of its people, and less on the kinds of things that seem to be driving the past?
Yeah, it's always a challenge, especially with turnover in administration. Sometimes it's just kind of, all right, you get a new administration in here, you kind of have to remind them of the work you're doing or the work that everybody else is doing. So they really need to be kind of recognizing the value and working in support of that, and that can be a challenge. So actually, I'm optimistic about the new administration. So he supports a lot of this. He's really supports kind of the bicycling culture and the creative culture in the city. As an assemblyman, he was actually one of the sponsors of the arts legislation that would provide support for artists to kind of creating like live workspace. It's called, I forget what that legislation is called. The Artist Bank. So having that kind of larger legislature experience, we're hoping that he can translate that to making sure that this is a useful and recognized tool for community improvement.